Good afternoon, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Today I'll be giving part one of many speeches. Recently, I empowered myself to take a solo trip across America. My destination, Nashville. I was worried about the COVID-19 virus from the start, and as my story progresses, you will hear much about it. While packing up, I was searching for my favorite tote bag in a hall closet, and I've opened the door, looked upwards, and upon the closet shelf, I found Waldo, upside down, looking at me intently, almost pleading with me to take him along. I'd only been looking at my atlas before, and I didn't think of Waldo until the closet, but I had an idea. May sound a little crazy, but from then on, I felt it was Waldo and me going on this trip together. After my son and husband had our last lunch and I fueled up, buckled up, and headed down the 656-mile Pacific coast, I stopped 10 miles south of my home at Big Sur and took a photo of this. I rarely pull over at vistas along the drive because of the tourists parked along the way and the danger of pulling off and back on the road. But on this Saturday, it was different. The roads were empty, all of the vistas completely empty. I'm sure that had COVID something to do with it. Usually there are thousands of people on the road, and today, no one. After my trip was 120 miles until my first night's stay, but 120 miles on a windy road meant 4.5 hours to my first night's destination. I had to stop for a pit stop, and I found people in a parking lot. I wasn't sure why they were there. I think it was access to the ocean, but when I pulled in, there was a tiny little outhouse for men and women. I got out of my car, and within 1 minute of having my gloves on, my mask on, I got in and out of that bathroom and had Lysol'd myself before snapping this photo and hopping back into the car. I woke up the next morning in Paso Robles. It was very hot, 105 degrees. Paso Robles, as you know, has a lot of vineyards, and Waldo just needed a little shade. Also, almonds grow in California. Almonds grow in California. Did you know that 80% of the world's almonds are grown in California, and that almonds are the major export crop in California? A little ways down the road, I found the James Dean Memorial. I learned a lot about James Dean on my trip when I finally found Wi-Fi. I learned that James Dean was on his way to the Salinas racetrack, now known as the Laguna racetrack, when he wrecked his Spider Porsche, not into the tree you see, but head-on collision with a truck that had crossed the divider line. He was actually on his way to meet his friends for dinner, 5:15 p.m., when the accident occurred. A Japanese man was on site when the collision happened, and he took lots of photos. After going back to Japan, he had this stainless steel monument made and shipped over from Japan, and there it is in Paso Robles on a highway where we can remember James Dean. He was an icon for the teenagers in the 1950s. The Tehachapi windmills. I couldn't wait to get here. I'd been through this part of the country many times, and I was always fascinated with the thousands of white windmills. After a little research, I know now that there are two types of windmills, the old ones and the new ones you see at the top, at the bottom left here. The old ones produce kilowatts, while the new ones produce megawatts. Translation? Lots of energy in California, lots of wind energy. It is 40 miles out of this town where I made my second night's rest. This was absolutely the worst night of my trip. Not only did the wind, noise, and move shake my hotel room and keep me up all night, there were bed bugs in my bed. Because of the wind keeping me up all night, I kept slapping my arm and I knew they were there, but I didn't get up to check because I thought it was my imagination. But the next morning on the way down to the lobby in the elevator, I felt that bug again and I slapped. This time I looked, and in the light of my elevator, I found a little green bug on my arm. After that, I switched hotel chains, and from then on, I had pleasant stays every night. Kingman, Arizona. This is part of Route 66. All along Interstate 40, I saw signs to get off on Route 66. Waldo kept begging, and I kept saying, no, we must go on. Finally, I decided to get off. Waldo needed a leg break. He was misbehaving and jumped out of the car and climbed up this mountain that you see. I got out, followed him up, and forgot that I was wearing my UGG flip-flops. I stumbled on a rock and rolled completely down the hill, cutting my elbows, bruising my body, and getting the red, dusty soil all over my clothes. I mean, from head to toe. The sad thing is, Waldo saw my fall. He saw my fall, and he was too frightened to come down by himself, and I had to go back up again and get him. Finally, Winslow, Arizona.
Well, I'm standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona. Such a fine sight to see. It's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford, slowing down to take a look at me. Come on, baby, don't say baby. I gotta know if you're sweet love is good.
Sorry about that. Oh, I don't know what I did.
Good grammar and spelling are important, but if you want to write essays that inspire, messages that forge brighter connections, and emails that get the job done.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Am I still screen sharing?
No.
Okay. I had to see the town for myself, and I did. I made it to Winslow, and at this point, I was indeed ready to take it easy. I wanted to doctor myself up and change my clothes from my fall a few hundred miles back. You won't believe what happened next, and I will save that for part 2. Until then, take it easy, everyone.
Thank you, Stacy.
Sorry about the glitches.